Hi, this is Mike Ignatoski, the creator of the GreenFox spreadsheet, the spreadsheet that uses Excel programming to make it behave like a computerized baseball scorebook or scoresheet. It also automatically computes the game stats, which can be a big time saver. And even better, GreenFox can be configured to operate in one of three different league modes where it can track the cumulative stats for all players and teams in the league. Welcome back. This video is video number 3 in the series. In the first two, we created our custom league with historical team rosters. If we take a look at our standings, just a reminder, we created this custom league with 8 teams separated into sub leagues. The teams are from different years, but they're all based on historical team rosters. And after tweaking our rosters, we put one game on the league schedule, created team lineups, loaded that game into the score sheet, and now we're ready to play the game. So let's get going with that, but let's first get a little background on the spreadsheet itself, and especially the score sheet part. So throughout this video, I'm going to be using this halo mouse cursor, this just a halo effect on my mouse so it's easier to follow on the video, but that's not part of the GreenFox spreadsheet. Anyway, just a little orientation on the spreadsheet or the score sheet tab within the spreadsheet. These are a couple of links to the YouTube videos and the Facebook group where you can get the latest version of the program. This brings up a help window, and let's take a look at this top part is the visitors score sheet. We can scroll down. The bottom part here's where the home team score sheet is. Yeah, I think hopefully this should look kind of familiar as it's a standard score book of some types. Over here is where the game stats go. So let's first look at each one of these little blocks in the score sheet is where you're going to keep track of the score. And the key to this is in two places. One is on this question mark or this help button. If I click it, it brings up this what's called the score sheet batter block key, and you can see what this does is kind of give it's kind of the legend of what all the different cells inside one of these blocks does or what it relates to. So you can kind of see this big square in the middle serves two things. It's for the basic plate appearance results as well as whether they scored a run or not. The squares around that are like the base paths, with the corners being the bases. And there are some other ones that have special meanings like unearned run, RBIs. This right next to the second and third and home are some special cells that track results for base stealing. So let's see how that works. And as it says down here, in general, each of these cells, some have more than one state or value, and you can just keep clicking the same cell and it'll cycle through all the options. Similarly, down here at the bottom there's this LG help, and I mean just the help tab, and that gives it a little more detail, shows you the same layout map, but here gives a little description of what all the different cells do. This here is a detailed description of the bad result pop-up window that we're going to look at in a minute, but maybe we should look at it a little bit now first. I know this looks pretty busy, but basically, as you can kind of see here, there's a lot of radio buttons, and that's in general what determines the result of the at bat, or the plate appearance. There's some special things here that have to do with runner advancement. There's the This group down here, which this box points to, are special results that have hit plus error outcomes. So you have a hit plus an error, so you have to figure out who the error is on, what's the extent of the error. There's this little place here in the middle that indicates the status of the outs and the base runners when the batter's up. Here we have wild pitches, balks, and pass balls. If you want to track the pitch count, that's over here. Batter injury, that's here. And this top section called the location detail, that deals with kind of, I'll call it scorekeeping richness, if you want to call it that. That doesn't really impact the game stats, but it distinguishes between a ground out to shortstop and just a ground out. So you can always refer back to this for more details. Here's just, I was messing around with a colorized version of this map. I wasn't sure if that made it easier or harder to understand, so I left both of them in here. But anyway, let's get back to the score sheet. So the basic way this thing works is you click in the big square in the middle, and that's what brings up this box. And from here you essentially choose the result. They're kind of grouped. Here are all outs. There's a couple more outs down here. These are basically the runner getting on base. These are all errors. These are some result plus an error. And this really is just to identify basically who played the ball defensively or where the ball went. So let's say he grounds out to short. I could just pick ground out and then click OK, and it puts ground out. And it puts a red square on first base, meaning he was out at first base. If we wanted to clear this, we could hit this clear, erases it. Let's say we want to show that he grounded out to shortstop. We hit ground out, and up here on the location detail, we click the shortstop, and then click OK. Now it says G6 instead of GO. Let's say Chris Chambliss gets up and he singles. I could say he singled to left if I wanted to. I'm just going to say he singled. So now he's safe at first, so it's a green square. And here's the result of the single, is this 1B in the middle. Thurman Munson comes up, and let's say he walks. So here's the walk box. It differentiates, there's regular walk, intentional walk. To say this is a regular walk, we do that. You see he's on first, it automatically pushes Chris Chambliss to second base. It brings up Piniella. Let's pretend he grounds to second, and they get the force at second, but Piniella beats it out, so it ends up being a fielder's choice to second base. So where's that? So we find this fielder's choice. Now what we do notice here is this little outs and base runner section. You can see when it popped up, these two are green, meaning there are base runners on first and second right now. So here's our fielder's choice. So we'll click that. You can see now it puts some instructions up here. It says select the runner that was put out if an out was made. And we said the runner on first got out at second. So this runner is out. It's not where they got out, but which runner. So this runner got out, which means this one should go to third, and the batter should be safe at first. So it was fielder's choice to second base. Okay. So that's how it's scored. Fielder's choice to second. Piniella's safe at first. Thurman Munson is out at second base. Chambliss now goes to third base. Oscar Gamble now is up with 2 outs. Let's say he flies out to right. Fly out, right field. Now, I could say okay, but what I want to bring up here is GreenFox has something that called the end of inning marker, and a lot of times when people keep score, they'll have some type of annotation on their score sheet to indicate this is where the lineup ended at the end of an inning. And similarly, GreenFox does too. So I'm going to say fly out to right, but instead of hitting OK, I'm going to hit this toggle end of inning. So you can see it puts F9 to fly out to right. He's out at first. In this, this red annotation here indicates that this is the end of the inning. And once you put this on, that's when it computes the score of the inning. So it updates the scoreboard down here. So that is the very simple way to do the first of how the score sheet works. So let's jump now to do the second half of the inning. Okay, so let's jump to the bottom of the first. And I can scroll down here to get there, but I want to kind of show that this middle section of the score sheet during the game is really not much of any value. It's really just kind of shows where the pitching stats are at the end of the game, some error tracking, but this middle isn't used at all. So that's why there's this button here to show or hide the pitching stats. I'm going to click that, and now it hides these middle rows to make it the score sheet a little more efficient when you're playing a game. So from here I could scroll down, but each of the score sheets has this arrow here, and you click this arrow, it'll jump down to the other score sheet like this. Similarly, if you click this, it'll jump back up. So it's just a convenient way to save a fraction of a second. Okay, so here we have Ed Figueroa going up against Bird Campaneris. Let's say he hits it to shortstop and Fred Stanley makes an error. I think that's who's playing up there. So over here are the errors. So we'll click E6 for shortstop. When you click each of these, it defaults to a certain length. You can always change it, but let's just say it was a one base error. So okay, now he's on first base on an E6. Now Bert Campaneris is going to steal second base. So again, if we look at this thing, this is the second base for stealing. And what I'm going to do is click through. If I click here once, it'll show that he was safe. So SB for stolen base, and he's safe at second. If I click it again, it says CS for caught stealing, and it shows that he's out at second base with the red square. If I click it again, it'll say SE, which stands for stolen base plus throwing error, and now he's at third base. If I click it again, it just goes away. So now, similarly, if you have you click one of the bases, once it's green, you click it again, it turns red. You click it again, PK stands for picked off. And you click it again, it's clear. So let's get this back to have Bert Campaneris. Let's say he stole second base and he was safe. So let's put it back like that. But I just want to kind of demonstrate how you can change these values. Let's say Bill North is going to bunt. So I want to find sacrifice hit bunt right here. Let's say he bunts it to third. And it was successful, so I say okay. So it's a sacrifice hit third base, out at first. Campaneris is on third base. Sal Bando is up now with one out. You can see here it shows one out. Shows a guy on third base. Let's say that he hits a deep fly ball to center field, so that Bill North Campaneris scores on a sacrifice fly. So let's find a sacrifice fly, which is here. He hit it to center. You can see here it says select which runner. There's only one runner on, so it by default it automatically checks this box. OK. So it does a couple things. One, it puts SF8 for sacrifice fly to center here. He's out at first base. This here is the RBI square. Remember here it shows RBIs. So on the sacrifice fly, he gets an RBI. Bert Campanera scored, so this middle is colored in, and because he scored on it, he got on base on an error, it'll always mark it as unearned run, and that's why this UE is there. Here's the unearned run cell, and that says UE for unearned run. And let's say Reggie Jackson gets up, and it's a home run. So we'll mark the home run, say OK. Now here's a case where it knows he got one RBI. I marked the home run. It marks it blue because he scored a run. And it's blue because it assumes it's an earned run. But as we know now from keeping score, this is unearned because if Campanera would have gotten out, there would have been 3 outs right now. So similarly, we're going to click the same cell down here to mark this as unearned run. I can click it again. It'll go back to earned. It's unearned, so it's going to be gray. Okay, Darren Johnson's up. 2 outs, nobody on. So he strikes out. Now we're back here. Say OK. Oh, I forgot to mark the end of inning. So I'm going to just click this cell again, Darren Johnson, and I'll just click the toggle end of inning, and it'll put it here and then count the runs. If you make a mistake and do it, you can always turn it back off and turn it back on. It doesn't hurt anything. So that is the bottom of the second inning, which we went through a few more things. So hopefully this is starting to make some sense. Okay, let's keep going here. We're done with the bottom of the first. We're going to click this arrow to jump back up. It jumps back up here. Let's say Greg Nettles gets a single. Let's say Willie Randolph grounds out to first base, but Nettles gets to second. If I just hit ground out and click OK, you notice that Greg Nettles doesn't move. So let's see what we can do. On the ground out to first, there's this little box here which says runner advance. They can either advance 1 base on this ground out, or this question mark, which means I don't know, or it's inconsistent, so it's unknown and it won't do anything. It's pretty much what we just did. But if I say all runners advance 1 base, I'll click that and then say OK. Now you see Greg Nettles went to second base, just like that. Okay. Roy White. Let's see what we didn't. Let's say he gets hit by a pitch. So that's that. Jim Mason's up. 1 on, 2 outs. He grounds third into a double play. So let's find that. So ground ball double play right here. GDP. So ground ball double play. So you can see here, similarly, there are 2 options for this double play. We can either say, oh, they forced out the guy at second or the guy at third. Let's just say he stepped on third and threw the guy out at first. So what we'll do is it says select the runner that was put out or got out. So I'm going to say this guy got out. It had this runner, but now we're changing it to this one. Say he hit it to third, and it was a double play. So now that's going to make 3 outs. So that'll be the end of inning. So I'm going to click the end of inning box. Let's see if it all works. Nice. So we have DP, double play, 5, third base. He's out at first. Nettles is out at third. And and this is the end of the inning. And now they have 0 runs in the top of the second. So that's that. Let's go to the bottom of the second. Okay, jump ahead a few batters. We're in the bottom of the second inning. We have first and second, 1 out. Dick Green's up, and he hits a single. Let's say it's just center. So here, this is all runners move advance 1 base. This would be all runners advance 2 bases, and this is it's inconsistent or unknown. So let's go with this one. This would be the case where maybe he could try to score, or maybe he doesn't try to score. It might depend on his speed, the outfielder's arm, or whatever else your gameplay has. But I want to show 2 things here. So one, if I leave this like it is, at the question mark, no runners will move. So let's just go with that. Say single. So you can see now Dick Green is on first, but Ray Fosse is still on first. And Gene Tenace is still on second. So let's say that I decide that Gene Tenace is going to try to score and he ends up getting out. So what I can do is I could just mark him out at home. So I click home once, he scores. I click home again, he's out. And depending on your game, Ray Fosse may be on second, which I'll move now, or maybe he went to third. I don't know if he did. Maybe let's just say he stopped at second. So what I'm really trying to show here is, even though there's lots of automation, or AI is in today's catchphrase, in the runner advancement in GreenFox, there's also the 100% manual version. So you can move it all yourself, remove the runners 100% manually if you need to get it right. So that's what we did here. So Gene Tenace was out at third. We're going to say Fosse's at second, and Dick Green is on first. One other thing, let's pretend I forgot to move Fosse to second. So let's just put him back at first. And now Bert Campaneris is up, and when I click this box, you'll see I'm going to get this error that says invalid base runner locations, please correct before continuing. Okay, so what that's doing is saying, hey, before I launch this batter result pop-up window, you can't have more than one runner on the same base. So that's what that's about. So you look at this and say, oh yeah, Fosse, he's on second. And let's say Campaneris gets up and strikes out and ends the inning. Okay, top of the third, we have a leadoff walk, then a double by Chambliss. The Yanks have guys on second and third, no outs. Munson hits a fly out to left, and Rivers is going to try to score, but he gets thrown out at the plate. So the best way to score that would be, you could just pick the fly out here and then just mark Rivers out at home. But we're going to be a little more exact and say this was kind of a fly out double play. It's kind of like the sacrifice fly gone bad. So we'll pick this FDP for fly out double play. Let's say up here we'll say that he hit it to left. You can see here it's telling us what runner was doubled off. This guy, he's not out on the tag up, but he'll be out at the plate. But either way, he's out. So let's double check this. We got flat double play. He hit it to left field. This is the runner that got out. So let's say OK. So you can see it says FDP7. He's out at first. Rivers is out at home. And it leaves Chambliss there. And we can decide whether we wanted him to move up or not. That's up to you. Let's say he stays there. And before, now there's 2 outs, guy on second. Before Piniella hits the ball or does anything. Let's pretend that the A's call a mountain huddle and they end up getting Chris Chambliss out on the hidden ball trick at second base. So he's effectively picked off. So if we look at the help, we go down here at this help sheet, you can see here on first base it says click to cycle through states. Green is the base runner, red is out. Red is out at base from pickoff, and the next one is clear, no base runner. Then second base and third base both say see first base. So all the bases kind of cycle through these states. Green, red pickoff, and clear. So to get the to get the pickoff, we'll just keep clicking second. It's already green, so if we click it again, it turns red, just as a generic out. We click it one more time, it stays red, but it says PK for pickoff. And that's what we're going to do. Or leave it at that. That's the third out. So now we're going to mark Thurman Munson as the last batter of the inning. So we'll click on his square. We're not going to change anything, but we're just going to click this toggle end of inning like this. And now we're all good. All right, we pick up the game in the bottom of the fifth. A's winning 2-0. We have bases loaded, 2 outs. Reggie Jackson's up. And Reggie goes prime time and hits the grand slam home run. So we'll mark home run. Okay. And now we get these confirmation messages or alerts about whether these runs are earned or unearned or the RBIs associated. And we'll get one of these for each of those 3 auto advancing runner. And you can see here, because there was this error here when Burt Campaneris got on, and then these next 2 guys got out. So all these runs are unearned. So to mark them unearned, we're going to, remember, look at our cheat sheet. Right here is the unearned box, kind of the unearned toggle box. So if we click that here, it'll turn it from blue to gray on this center square as the background of and that means it's unearned, along with this UE. So we'll do the same thing here. This one already is because he got on air, so that it knows that runs unearned, as well as this one. And after that mess, let's say Billy Martin decides that's enough for Ed Figueroa. He's going to take him out. So we're going to change the pitcher. Let's look at this thing one more time. So the substitutions are on the edges here. Change pitcher is at the top. So we'll click this bar. And here are the subs that are in the bullpen. And you can see here it lists, these are kind of the roles historically, as far as whether they had roles as a starting pitcher and or a relief pitcher, and whichever one they were used the most, that shows first if they did both. Like Grant Jackson was more a relief, pitched more in relief than he did starts. Whereas Doyle Alexander was the opposite. He had more starting appearances than relief appearances. But anyway, here we are in the fifth. Let's bring in Grant Jackson. Now let's bring in Dick Tidrow. So we'll click his name, click OK. You can see up here on the top, it adds Dick Tidrow's name to the visitor pitcher list. And it leaves this bar filled in with blue to indicate where this pitching change occurred. Let's say he promptly comes in and hits Darren Johnson, walks Joe Rudy, and then walks Gene Tennis, because that's what Gene Tennis does. So now we're back to bases loaded, 2 outs, and we're in the situation where they've batted around. They've batted all 9 players in their order, but we're still not done with the inning. So the question is, what are we going to do? And that's where I want to show you what this bat around or overflow inning feature and how it works. So when you have an inning where you bat around the entire lineup and you still haven't gotten 3 outs, what you do in GreenFox is you click on the inning label. So in this case, we would click on this 5 because it was the 5th inning where we batted around for the A's. And once I click there, it'll reveal this extra inning column called the overflow or the plus inning. And you can see on the scoreboard it marks it with black, so we already have a 5th inning. But it is in this 5 plus or this overflow inning column that we would continue on with our scorekeeping. So in our situation here, we have 2 outs and Ray Fosse up, and so that Dictator gets it all together and strikes him out and ends the inning. So now we just have this one item here in this 5 plus, and once we get to the next inning, the bottom of the 6th, we'll start over here with Dick Green in the 6th inning and carry on as usual. One other thing I'll mention about these overflow innings, if you happen to click one of these labels by accident, because they all have the same feature. Like if I click the 6th inning, I'll get a 6 plus, whatever. But if you click it by accident, you can get rid of it by clicking on the label in the plus inning, and it'll hide it. And it'll hide it even if you've used it, like this 5 plus. I could hide it. I don't want to do that, but that's how you can undo it. But it doesn't actually erase what's there. So I'm going to put it back so we can see this 5 plus, and we'll carry on from here. Fast forward a little bit to the top of the 6th. Catfish Hunter's working on a 6-0 lead, but he's got himself into a little jam with the first 3 guys getting on in the top of the 6th here. Bases loaded for Nettles. He doubles up the gap. So double. All runners advance 3 bases. That's the X plus 1 here. So all 3 of those runs should score. And so we'll get this auto advance runner scoring alert 3 times. And if you're tired of getting those messages because you believe you've got the score sheet figured out when it comes to runner scoring, you can turn that off. And that's down here in these tabs at the bottom. There's an options. And here's a list of several types of options. And they're unfortunately not in any real particular order, but option number 9 and 8 have to do with auto advancing runners. 8 is just, do you want to have runners auto advance, yes or no? And I strongly suggest you say leave that on, because that really helps out a lot. Because a lot of the times the score sheet can know what's happening with the runners, but there are times when it doesn't. And this is the alert that we were just seeing 3 times when it says when an auto advanced runner scores, the user is alerted that they may need to update the earned run or unearned run status as well as an RBI, because they can't know all those answers. So let's take this off. So I'm going to click here off. This is the on. And whenever you change something here, especially during a game, you need to follow this rule here and click this update game options. And when you do that, it'll jump back to the score sheet, as well as give you this little box that says the game options were updated successfully. Okay. After all that, it's time to bring in a reliever. So again, if you remember in this help key, the cheat sheet I call it, up at the top is the change pitcher. So we'll click here by Willie Randolph, change pitcher. These are the subs that are in the bullpen, and you can see their different roles. Let's bring in the lefty Lindblad, or I'm pretty sure it was lefty. So you can see he says RPSP, which means in this season, historically, whatever, this was a 73 A's, it used more times as a reliever than a starter. Whereas Blue Moon Odom was more times a starter than a reliever. That's why the order of these tells you something. Okay, so let's just mark this as Lindblad's coming in to pitch. Please click the OK. That leaves this as colored in blue. It puts Lindblad's name up here. So Randolph is up next. He singles. Infield single, only go one base. Okay. Roy White is up. And the craziness continues. I'm going to click this single plus error. Let's say he singled to center, and then Bill North made an error. So single, who made the error? Center fielder right here. And then we can go down here and pick, was it a one base error, two, or three? I'm going to pick it two. I'll leave it at two. So, given that both these runs should score. So let's see what happens. I'm going to say okay. And both runs scored. It didn't give us the alert, but we have to figure out both the earned or unearned and the RBIs. So Nettles was on third, so his run is going to be earned. That would have scored. Randolph was on first. He would likely not have scored on this single, so his run will be unearned. So to change that, I'm going to jump to the cheat sheet one more time. Remember, the unearned run is right down here. So we'll click this. And oh, sorry, Randolph. We'll toggle that. And now we need to give Roy White his RBIs, which would really just be, which would be one. Let's say in our excitement, we end up clicking too fast to mark these RBIs. And remember, in the cheat sheet, this is the RBI right above first base. And I want to show, if you click too fast in here, so you just click once, that's really all you want. But let's say I click twice too fast, and if it considers your click a double click, it puts you into edit mode. So now you can see there's a blinking cursor here, and if I click it again, it doesn't do anything. So the easiest way to do this is just click out of the score sheet over in some blank cell, not in the score sheet ideally. But you can click out here and then come back and then start over. So we want to have show it one RBI, but we need to click once. It goes to 3, 4, blank, and then 1. And now let's say that Mason lines to third and they double off White. This will be a line out double play. So here's the line out double play, LDP. He hit it to third, which we don't have to show, but we will. And you can see, because it's a double play, there's only one runner on, it already knows that this was the guy that got out. So that should bring us to 2 outs. Lastly, we have Rivers. I want to say he will ground out to the pitcher and end this inning. So you can see here's one of the other alerts that we did not turn off that says, hey, during this inning there were 5 runs and only 4 RBIs. This may require updating the score sheet, but it may not. It may be correct. So this is correct in this case because one of the runs scored on this center fielder error, and that's why there's not an RBI for that. So that's why it is correct. 5 runs, 4 RBIs. It's all good. Let's jump ahead to the top of the 8th. Oscar Gamble's leading off. Lindblad is still pitching, but they're going to pinch hit for Gamble since he's not as good against lefties. At least let's pretend. So we're going to pinch hit once more. Back to the cheat sheet. Change hitter, or pinch hitter, same thing, is this left side bar. So we click this left side thing. This will bring up our bench sub list. And let's choose Carlos May as the pinch hitter. So you can see it puts this kind of purplish, pinkish, magenta color here. It puts Carlos May name over here. Let's say he promptly singles. Since this is the tying run or potential tying run, the next move the Yankees want to make is pinch running for Carlos May. One more time. Pinch runner is over here on the right. The right strip. We'll pick this right strip and say, let's go with Sandy Alomar. He's pretty fast. And again, these position lists are the actual positions that these players play during that season. It doesn't mean your game will allow them to play there, or maybe they will, but it's kind of for historical reasons or context. It shows the defensive positions they played as well as whether they were a DH or a pinch runner. It does not show who was a pinch hitter because that's almost everybody, and it's not that valuable, so I didn't show it. So Sandy Alomar is going to be the pinch runner. I'll click him. Click OK. So now you can see now Sandy Alomar goes in the third spot. It's green. He's the pinch runner. And he gets a good lead. Let's say he steals second base. So the second base stealing is this one here to the left of the second base. So this is, you see, so second base, stolen base, cause stealing. And this is stolen base plus error. So let's say that. Let's say he stole second and Ray Fosse overthrew it, or maybe Dick Green dropped the ball, or whoever it was. So we'll click here once for stolen base, 2 if we were caught stealing, and the third time is SE for stolen base plus throwing error. And now Alomar is on third. Next up is Greg Nettles. He strikes out. Randolph's up and tries to squeeze. If it worked, it'd be this. But we're going to say it didn't work. I'm going to move this over so you can see. And basically, this is effectively a fielder's choice. Oh, actually, let's say it's this. Let's say he tried to squeeze. He pops out to the pitcher for a double play. So he pops out, and then they tag out Alomar trying to score. So let's do this. Pop out double play to the pitcher. Yep, this runner got out. That'll be 3 outs, so that's the end of the inning. Again, sometimes you'll forget to mark the end of the inning. So you can see this marked him out. If I say, oh, then I realize I forgot to do the end of the inning, you can always go back and just turn it back on. Okay, move ahead to the top of the 9th inning. The A's are still winning 6-5. Roy White is leading off, but instead of Lindblad taking them out, it's going to be Raleigh Fingers. So we're going to have a pitching change. Remember our cheat sheet, the pitching change line is at the top. So we'll click that in the 9th inning where we're going to score Roy White's plate appearance. So we click that, click Raleigh Fingers, OK. It puts Raleigh Fingers' name in the list of pitchers. Roy White comes up. Now he's batting left, but he walks. Now before I end this, I want to show a feature I haven't shown yet this game, and that's this pitch count. It's completely optional, but for any result that you can mark in this batter result window, you can use this pitch count feature if you want to keep track of pitch count. So let's say this was a 6-pitch walk. So I'll mark 6 with the walk and click OK. Roy White walks, he's on first, and now after Rolly Finger's name, it shows a 6 in parentheses. That's his total pitch count so far. So now we have Mason's up. We're going to pinch hit for him. Again, over here's the pinch hitter, change hitter. And Cesar Tovar is going to pinch hit. So we'll click his name. And let's say he hits it to third base, but they can't double him off, but they get white out at second. So that would be a fielder's choice to third base. It automatically knows that this guy must be out because he's the only base runner on. And let's pretend, or let's say that was on the second pitch of the at-bat. So pitch count of 2. And now this pitch count for Rolly Finger should go to 8 when we click OK here. And it did. So marks white out at second, Tovar on at first. And now Mickey Rivers is up. He strikes out on 3 straight pitches. That should move the pitch count to 11. It does. We have 2 outs. Chris Chambliss is up. And let's say here we have kind of a strange situation. We're on the 3rd strike. It's in the dirt, and it gets past Fossey. And because there's 2 outs, even though there's a guy on first, he can still advance, and the batter can become a runner. So he ends up on first. So what we're going to do are 2 things here. Mark this as a passed ball. So in this pre-result event area, this is where we document passed balls, wild pitches, and balks. So we're going to click pass ball. If there were actually more than one, you could click this arrow thing, but all we have is 1 here. And then the strikeout on a drop 3rd strike is right here. So what's going to happen here, I'm going to mark this strikeout safe at first on a drop 3rd strike along with this pass ball, because typically if you do have this, it should be either a wild pitch or a pass ball. There has to be some reason why they dropped the ball. Okay. And I think that should do it. So let's say that happened on the 5th pitch. So we got one pass ball. So let's see what should happen. Tovar on the pass ball basically should get to second, and Chambliss should end up on first. Oh, good. It did what it should. So we can see Tovar went to second. Here it shows pass ball plus K DTS. He's on first. The Yankees are still alive. Munson's up. He lines out to Rolly Fingers, and the game's over. So line out here. That's 3 outs, so end of inning. And let's say that was the second pitch of the at-bat. End of inning. So that wraps us up. You can see that finished up. So Rolly Fingers' pitch count for this inning was 18. And with that wraps up this demonstration of how to handle the score sheet in GreenFox. I tried to cover almost all the scenarios within the batter result pop-up window. I hope you found it informative, and in the next video I'll do the last step of this series of videos and cover how to compute the game stats and save the cumulative stats for this game. Thanks a lot for watching.